Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtotara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtotara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay. I need a... If there's a Bhagavatam, the book. I need, yeah. Yeah, it's... You know where it is? Yeah, 17. I mean, I guess I could look it up on my phone, I guess. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 8, text number 17. Trivia, we could chant the... Oh. Better you do it.
Api che manasmin ashramo pavane shashpani charantam deva guptam drakshyami.
Okay. So, word for word. Api, it may be. Kshemerna, with fearlessness because of the absence of tigers and other animals. Asmin, in this. Ashram upavane, garden of the hermitage. Shashpani charantam, walking and eating the soft grasses. Devaguptam, being protected by the demigods. Drakshami, shall I see. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Alas, is it possible that I shall again see this animal protected by the Lord and fearless... Sorry. I'll start again. Alas, is it possible that I shall see again this animal protected by... All right, sorry. Yeah, Maya's trying to stop me from giving this class. Alas, is it possible that I shall again see this animal protected by the Lord and fearless of tigers and other animals? Shall I again see him wandering in the garden eating soft grass? Purport. Maharaj Bharat thought that the animal was disappointed in his protection and had left him for the protection of a demigod. Regardless, he ardently desired to see the animal again within his ashram, eating the soft grass and not fearing tigers and other animals. Maharaj Bharat could think only of the deer and how the animal could be protected from all kinds of inauspicious things. From the materialistic point of view, such kind thoughts may be very laudable, but from the spiritual point of view, the king was actually falling from his exalted spiritual position and unnecessarily becoming attached to an animal. Thus degrading himself, he would have to accept an animal body. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupam Kadamayam Darati Svaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshri Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll just pull up my notes quickly so I stay on track. So, yeah, now we're seeing how the deer, which Maharaj Bharat was very attracted to, has now left. The deer has now left Maharaj Bharat, and he's very distressed. And Prabhupada in the purport, he explains how he thinks that the deer was disappointed in his protection, and so he thought, I'll go somewhere else. And so this is how relationships in this world go, in the material world relationships, materialistic relationships. They're like this. There's always disappointment, and so that's why we see now there's so much quarrel, so much strife, all this stuff that's going on. I mean, 50% of marriages end in divorce. That's the current rate, at least for America. My understanding is that there's places in the world which are actually higher than that, which are higher than 50% of marriages end in divorce. So relationships in this material world, they're constantly, it's just filled with disappointment. And so that's because they're based on the body. All the relationships practically in this material world, they're based on the body. Of course, they don't have to be. There's also spiritual relationships that one can have in this world. But largely, relationships in this world are based on the body. And so, and we can see here, Bharat Maharaj is thinking that the deer left as a result of insufficient protection. My body will be protected, the deer is thinking, my body will be protected somewhere else. It'll be better protected somewhere else. So I'll go somewhere else. And relationships in this world, they're like that. They're like that. It's this mentality of, I scratch your back if you scratch mine. But if you don't scratch my back, then I'll find somebody else who will. And that's the whole concept, or the whole paradigm of relationships based on the body, which is practically speaking every relationship in this world. And then the following verses we'll see how much suffering this causes for the living entity. We'll see how Maharaj Bharat practically becomes insane. He starts to worship. He sees the little deer's footsteps on the ground, and he starts to worship. He starts to say, what pious acts you must have, this land must have done to receive, the footsteps of such a great creature. And he starts to think like this, and he thinks he's so fallen, and just because this deer left him. And so this pastime, it illustrates how material relationships, they just end in so much suffering. And he's also describing how he's missing, he's meditating there. He explains how he's feigning meditation. He's faking it. And so he's looking like he's meditating, and then, the deer comes up and starts nudging him. And then, he'll open his eyes and he'll see, and he'll, chastise the deer for polluting the arena of sacrifice. And, all these things it's all based on the body. He just wants to see the deer's body. He wants to feel the deer. He wants to hear the deer. All these different ways that the deer is gratifying his senses. So practically, his whole relationship with the deer, and most relationships in this material world, they're predicated on lust, on sense gratification. And so we can't expect this kind of relationship to be satisfying, because it may bring some temporary pleasure to the body, but for the soul, there's nothing there. It's just completely dry. And so largely materialistic relationships in this world are useless, and actually worse than useless. They're actually completely detrimental to the process of self-realization, to the gradual elevation of the soul, as we're seeing here. But our relationship with Krishna is nothing like that. Our relationship with Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything about him is perfect. And not only is everything about him perfect, but everything related to him is perfect. And so if we become related to him, we also become perfect. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavate kinchana sarvar gunais tatra samasate sudha. That just by having a relationship with Krishna, we develop all the good qualities of the demigods, the suras. And so just by becoming related with Krishna, of course, we're all related with Krishna, but we've forgotten. And so we have to revive this relationship through the process of bhakti, the process of bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga means devotional service. So by engaging in this process of devotional service, we become perfect. We become perfect. We become. There's numbers given. There's like percentages given the jiva. What is it? The jiva is like 70% God or something like that. Yeah, we can get 78% of the qualities of Krishna. We can practically become 78% of the qualities of Krishna. There's other numbers like for Shiva. To minute degree. But yeah, having come under the influence of Maya, desiring to enjoy separately from Krishna, we've become entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying this material world. So it's stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Nate vidu svarta kitinghi Vishnu durashaya yeba hirartamaninha andhaya tandar upaniyamanas te pisha tantram urudam nibadha. And as a result of this becoming entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying the material world, we have to continue it again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. We have to come back here. Because if we develop materialistic consciousness throughout our life, what are we going to remember at the time of death? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whatever you remember at the time of death, whatever your consciousness is at the time of death, that you will attain. So if we spend our entire lives developing material consciousness, what's the question of remembering Krishna at the time of death? There's no question of remembering Krishna at the time of death. And so we have to come back here to this place of birth, death, old age, and disease, and just suffer like anything. But in the spiritual world, there's none of these things. There's no birth, no death, no old age and disease, no lust, no greed, no envy, no illusion. The abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead it's perfect. There's no suffering, there's no stress, there's no insecurity. Of course, there's spiritual varieties of these things, but they're just different variations of ecstasy. It's all ecstasy. But like, for example, the gopis are feeling separation from Krishna. Externally, they're suffering like anything, but actually it's the highest ecstasy. But and this relationship that we have with Krishna in the spiritual world, it's not like the relationships that we have in this world. It's not predicated by lust. It's not predicated by sense gratification. All Krishna wants from us is love. He's bhavagrahi janardana. That's all he's asking of us. He's not asking, oh, you have to do this much for me. You have to give me this money, this amount of money, or you have to, or I'm just going to shun you, or something like that. No, Krishna all he wants is love, and service. Love and service. Love because love means service. If you love someone, you'll do something for them. And so, this reality is available to us in the spiritual world. It's available to us because, of course, it's available to everyone at all times by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, but it's available to us specifically as members of ISKCON, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and specifically Westerners. Of course, it's not all Westerners in the audience, but it's available to us as Westerners because of Srila Prabhupada, because of the struggles that Srila Prabhupada went through to bring it to us. He left Vrindavan. He was comfortably situated in Vrindavan. Left Vrindavan, 30-day trip on a cargo ship, not even a passenger ship. There was one apartment or something on the ship. Or I guess there was the captain's quarters, and there was some other apartment, there on the ship. And then, he suffered 2 heart attacks. He suffered seasickness. I mean, externally he was an old man. So his health wasn't good whatsoever. And so he did all of this, went through all of this struggle, just to bring us this reality of going back home, back to Godhead, and engaging in our eternal relationship with Krishna, because he saw that the people of this world were suffering like anything. And so he came out of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls who have forgotten their relationship with Krishna. And he had that compassion for us. We're the ones he came to deliver. So we should feel indebted to Srila Prabhupada for bringing us such an amazing gift, the most amazing gift. There's actually nothing that even comes close to comparing to the gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us. And so we should feel a sense of urgency to try to pay him back, for what he's done for us. And he made it very clear how we can pay him back, and we can pay him back by helping him in his mission of compassion, in trying to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. Prabhupada, in a letter, he said, "If you at all feel indebted to me, then you should preach vigorously like me. That is the proper way to repay me." Of course, no one can repay the debt to the spiritual master, but the spiritual master is very much pleased by such an attitude by the disciple. And so Prabhupada saying preaching here, but Prabhupada said preaching means book distribution. And so now the December marathon, the yearly December marathon, is upon us. And it's a time for us to go all out and to hunker down and to be enthusiastic in trying to serve Prabhupada by distributing his books. And because this book distribution, it's actually a method of worshiping Srila Prabhupada. If we have affection for Srila Prabhupada, if we have love for Srila Prabhupada, book distribution is a way to worship Srila Prabhupada. Just like there's this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasaha, that Lord Chaitanya has come, he has descended to inaugurate the Sankirtan Yagya, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord, as the Yuga Dharma. And so people with Sumedasaha, Yajantihi Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasaha, that people who have Sumedasaha, they worship him by the Sankirtan Yagya, because he's the one who inaugurated it. And so similarly, Srila Prabhupada, within the Gaudiya Sampradaya, has inaugurated this mass transcendental book distribution. And so those who have affection for Srila Prabhupada, they worship Srila Prabhupada by distributing his books, because he's the one who inaugurated this mass book distribution within the Gaudiya Sampradaya. And he's very pleased by this form of worship. He's most pleased by this form of worship. Prabhupada said many times that book distribution, it's the most important activity. And like in 1975, when the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan opened, Prabhupada did the first arti when the deities were being installed. But the second arti, it was done by Tripurari Swami, Vaisheshika Prabhu, and Sura Prabhu. And so Sura Prabhu was worshiping Radha Shyama Sundar. But there was this fan. Apparently there was this fan on, and it was going full blast. And so he was having a lot of trouble lighting the lamp and keeping it lit. He was kind of fumbling a little bit, and Prabhupada was there. Prabhupada saw him, and he asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj, "Who is this guy? What's going on here? Why can't he light the lamp?" And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, "They're Tripurari Swami's men." In other words, they were book distributors. And Prabhupada said, "That's okay then." So Prabhupada, he gives special mercy. There's special concession to the book distributors, to those who, and it doesn't have to be that. You have to be some big book distributor. I distributed 800 Maha books in a day and made $4,000. But anybody who tries sincerely to spread the Krishna consciousness movement, there's special mercy there. There's special concession from Srila Prabhupada, because they're doing that work which is most dear to him. Prabhupada was constantly in his letters and his talks. He was actually begging his disciples. He was begging his disciples, "Please help me. I've come to this country on the order of my spiritual master, and by Krishna's grace, you've been sent. But please help me spread this Krishna consciousness movement." And so Prabhupada's followers, his disciples and his grand disciples and now grand disciples, they're the agents of his mercy. Prabhupada was a pure devotee. His mercy was completely unlimited, and by his mercy, he could deliver He could deliver the entire planet practically in a moment. And he's doing that, actually. He's doing that, but he's doing it through the agency of his disciples and his followers, those who came after him. And we as followers of Srila Prabhupada we're the limbs of his mercy. And so it's our duty to extend ourselves, Prithiviteyacha Jata Nagaradigram, to extend ourselves to every town and village and spread Prabhupada's mercy and spread Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Because people in this world are suffering like anything. I mean, everybody's anxious, everybody's depressed. I mean, mental illness is at an all-time high, suicide is at an all-time high. I mean, people are really suffering like anything out there. And just you walk outside this door and you can see it. You can see, I mean, all people are told about happiness is that if you gratify your senses to the fullest extent, then you'll be happy. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. And they have no other alternative besides this. And some people are really seriously convinced that if they gratify their senses enough, that they can be happy. I mean, to devotees, it's inconceivable. I mean, of course, speaking for myself, I know I have anarthas. I know, devotees still, there may be some lingering, idea that, oh, maybe this, sense gratification will make me happy. But I mean, philosophically speaking, theoretically speaking, devotees know that there's no happiness there. Devotees know that that's a completely insane idea, that just sense gratification will make us happy. But they have no other alternative out there. People have, they're not told anything else. I mean, some people may have some idea of God, but ultimately their idea of God is like, God give us this day our daily bread. And Prabhupada, like Prabhupada said, it's been mentioned in class a few times recently, that this isn't love of God, this is love of bread. So ultimately it comes down to sense gratification. Ultimately it comes down to trying to enjoy this material world. And so Prabhupada's books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Krishna book, Prabhupada wrote so many books. They provide a real way out of this world, out of the suffering of this world. Because that's what he came to give. He didn't want people to suffer in this world. He came here out of compassion. That was his whole mission. He didn't want people to suffer in this world. The pure devotee is always in anxiety, thinking how to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. And so by surrendering to this movement and by putting ourselves at the disposal of Srila Prabhupada and of Lord Chaitanya and the previous acharyas, in spreading this Krishna consciousness movement, Prabhupada becomes very pleased. In a letter to Keshava, Prabhupada says, I have been receiving so many reports about how my disciples of the San Francisco temple cannot be surpassed by anyone in distributing my books. Sometimes they are selling as many as 70 Krishna books in a day. So if this is true, then certainly when I return to the U.S., I must come and stay in your temple. By distributing my books profusely, you are giving me great encouragement to translate, and you are helping me fulfill the order which my Guru Maharaj gave me. So I am so much grateful to you, and I am sure Krishna will bless you 1,000,000 times over for doing this work. So just see, Prabhupada, he's attracted by book distribution. If you sincerely try to distribute books according to your capacity, you'll attract Prabhupada. You'll attract Prabhupada's mercy. It's not that because Prabhupada's not on the planet anymore and he can't. Of course, Prabhupada's in this temple. He's sitting right there. But it's not that just because Prabhupada's not on this planet anymore that we can't have reciprocation with him, that we can't, have a relationship with him. Prabhupada's completely off the material platform. Prabhupada's a completely spiritual person. He's a Shaktivesh avatar of the Lord. And so, so just by making a sincere effort to distribute books, to spread this Krishna consciousness movement, he'll reciprocate with that. He'll give you mercy. He'll give you the strength to continue on and to keep increasing more and more and more and more. He'll use you. He'll use you as a tool, as an instrument in fulfilling the prophecy of Lord Chaitanya. And so from this, Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasado, from this, all perfection comes. All perfection in Krishna consciousness comes when we get the mercy of the spiritual master. And Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, he came to give the perfection of Vraj Prema, or specifically Madhurya Prema, the prema that the gopis feel for Krishna, the love that the gopis have for Krishna. And so some people may like to, they like to criticize. So many people like to criticize. They like, some people will say, oh, book distribution, that's for neophytes. Book distribution's for neophytes, and if you're a really advanced devotee, then you'll just sit around and go to Vrindavan and hear about the gopis and Lila Smarnam and Raganuga, Sadhana Bhakti, all these different things, and that's there. Lord Chaitanya gave that. That's there. Lord Chaitanya instructed his disciples to engage in that, and his disciples codified that, and that's there. But he also instructed his disciples to go and preach. He instructed his disciples to go all over Bengal, all over India, all over. Pritivite ache jata nagar adigram. Every town and village. He prophesied that this movement would be spread. And this movement is not going to be spread by sitting in Vrindavan and eating dried leaves and remembering Krishna and the gopis. It's not. And by following Lord Chaitanya's instruction to spread this Krishna consciousness movement, that's one of his instructions. It's not that you don't get his mercy, which includes realization of all these esoteric pastimes and the highest perfection of Krishna prema. His mercy includes that. It's not that you won't get his mercy, you won't get that mercy by following that particular instruction. That doesn't make any sense. It's Lord Chaitanya's instruction. You follow it, you get his mercy. So, this book distribution, it's an extremely important and intimate service to Prabhupada, to Lord Chaitanya, to the previous acharyas, to Krishna, to everyone, and also to the Vaishnavas too. It's a service to the Vaishnavas because when we go out, even if some devotees may not be able to distribute books, that's somehow or other. Maybe they have service, or somehow or other, some devotees might not be able to distribute books. That's fine. And even to those devotees, book distribution is a service to them too, because every devotee should be enlivened to hear how the Krishna consciousness movement is spreading. And so by going out and distributing books, and you come back with stories, you come back with numbers, you come back with scores, and also you become enlivened. That enlivens other devotees, and all these things they serve to enthuse the sangha of devotees, even those who aren't going out, even those who aren't particularly invested in book distribution. Of course, all devotees should be invested in book distribution, but specifically those devotees who, maybe worshiping the deities, maybe cooking, all these different things. It's a service to them too. It's a service to everyone. And everyone, maybe I shouldn't say that, but everyone likes book distribution. Everyone likes book distribution. Every book distribution pleases everyone. Pleases senior devotees, pleases junior devotees, pleases Prabhupada, pleases everyone. And so anyway, maybe I shouldn't use myself as an example, but I'll do it anyway. I'm not a big book distributor. I don't consider myself a big book distributor. I distribute books, that's a service that I do. But I don't consider myself a big book distribution. But even the little book distribution that I do, practically, I meet Prabhupada disciples and they say, thank you for distributing books. I was at Rajendra Nandana Prabhu's home when he left his body, and that time around that. And, there were some Prabhupada disciples there, and they thanked me for distributing books. And when I was traveling, I met devotees, they thanked me for distributing books. And that doesn't belong to me, that glorification, that, none of that belongs to me. That all goes to Prabhupada, that all goes to my spiritual master, that all goes to Krishna. But when you act as an instrument, when you make yourself an instrument in spreading Krishna's mercy, when you're spreading Lord Chaitanya's mercy, people, devotees, they're enthused by that. They like that. And Prabhupada likes that. And so book distribution is an extremely important service. for both delivering the fallen conditioned souls and for getting Prabhupada's mercy, for making spiritual advancement. And of course, it also requires sadhana. Purity is the force. Prabhupada always said purity is the force. We have to have proper sadhana because we're not trying to deliver. My Guru Maharaj was giving I think it was my Guru Maharaj, was giving a lecture about book distribution. And he says, we have to be delivering Krishna consciousness to people. It's not that, we have to be conscious. We have to have consciousness of Krishna. It's not that I hurt my shin and I'm going out and I'm distributing books on, shin consciousness, or I hurt my foot and I'm distributing books on, foot consciousness or something like that. We have to have Krishna consciousness. We have to be conscious of Krishna. We have to remember Krishna. This comes from proper sadhana. And because it's not us who's distributing the books, it's Krishna, it's Lord Chaitanya, it's Prabhupada. They're acting through us, distributing these books. And so none of the glory actually really belongs to us. It all goes to Prabhupada. And so purity is required. So we have to be pure, and we have to be enthusiastic. And in that way, the Krishna consciousness movement will go on. So that's all I have prepared if anybody has questions or comments.
Hare Krishna.
Vijay Krishna, let me see if there's an in-house question, then maybe we can get to yours.
Yes, I can wait. No problem.
Jeff, Prabhu. Shriman Jeff. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you for a very nice class.
Okay.
I have a reflection and a question.
Sure.
Reflection is Maharaj Bharata, he's exalted spiritually. A doe walks by and he falls.
Yeah.
So danger at every step.
Yeah.
And my question is, you talked about book distribution and it's an extension. It is Lord Chaitanya's mission, book distribution. Is there a ranking? If we bring people to the temple, is it equal to the potency of book distribution? Or if I give prasadam to someone, is that the same equal potency?
Yeah, that's an extension of the Sankirtan movement. As long as you're preaching, as long as you're somehow or other trying to spread the Krishna consciousness movement, that's an extension of the Sankirtan Yajna. So yeah, I would say so. If anybody else has senior devotee maybe has more on that.
Hare Krishna. So the unique, I would say, unique quality of book distribution that you don't find in all the other services, which are essential, which are part of the whole spreading of Krishna consciousness, is that you're giving them Srila Prabhupada, you're giving them direct access to the words of Krishna, and it's what happens when you bring someone to the temple? Well, the value is that they'll hear. In other words, that they'll pick up, they'll be attracted to Krishna, and they'll come back, and they'll take up the sadhana, hopefully, like that. But at a certain point, what really solidifies that and gives them the determination to be Krishna conscious is hearing from Srila Prabhupada, reading a book. Probably everybody in this room, I know I did, and I was toying with Krishna consciousness and that. And when I read Krishna book, my mindset was such that it was too personal. It was too much detail. I was much more of an impersonalist. But when I read the TLC with the philosophy woven in there, that really fascinated me and brought me. So, I was already chanting and I was seeing the pictures and I was coming and taking prasadam, But coming to that point of reading a book is essential. So this is why Srila Prabhupada was so emphatic on it. And you read that wonderful account of how pleased he was when books really started to go out. And so it'll always be that way, because the association or the hearing of the transcendental vibration is really what wakes up the soul ultimately. And so there's a unique quality of that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Drew. Shukri Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the inspiring class and the insight and the reminder that there's danger at every step. And so being mindful of that, this poor fallen soul could use some special mercy. And with a marathon coming up and the encouragement that you had, I was wondering, how do we participate? How can I get involved in maybe distribution in the month of December?
Well, practically all the devotees here will be going out and distributing books. So you can pair up with one of them, go out with them, and they'll show you the ropes.
Wonderful.
I'm also going out. You can go out with me.
Thank you.
I'll do my best to.
Accepted. Yeah. Invitation is appreciated and accepted. I'm unworthy, so appreciate it.
Jai.
Jai.
Anything else? In-house? Okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Amogha Prabhu, thank you very much. The verse you chose for today, 5:8:17,
Yes.
Inspires me to ask the following question.
Okay.
But first, allow me to say the following. This verse and the purport reminds me in some way the pastime of Yamaraj with his assistants and servants. Yamaraj said to them, do not approach the ones who are chanting Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Go for the ones who do not chant, who are sinful and do not chant. So what I see here is that the servants of Yamaraj, they have a master to whom they need to pay obeisances. So in relation to the execution of their service. So and here in the verse you chose for today, we see that Bharata Maharaj, a very advanced devotee, because of becoming attached to a deer, he is going to take an animal body in the next life.
Yes.
But so now let's transport this to the life of a preacher. So when we go for preaching, the risk for us to be tempted by Maya in the form of a beautiful woman to whom we are trying to preach, and maybe we will become, and then we are risking to become attached to this beautiful woman, and then who knows, we may become as much attached to this beautiful woman as the Bharata Maharaj became attached to the deer, and then the worst can happen. Yeah. So, Prabhu, my question is, but we also know that Maya Devi, like the servants of Yamaraj, she does not work independently. She has a master, yes. And her master is Krishna. So my question is, in what measure Maya Devi is allowed to tempt a preacher? And let me make the connection with the ones who because they are chanting, the servants of Yamaraj cannot approach them. So a preacher, a book distributor is a chanter, he's a representative of God, of Lord Krishna. Is it that Maya Devi is allowed to approach the preacher in order to tempt him?
Oh yeah. Speaking for myself, I mean, and Maya comes in many different forms when you're on book distribution, not just as beautiful women. Like, for example, yesterday, Maya came in the form of a aggravated Indian man to me, arguing with, anyway. You'll meet so many people on book distribution, and some of them will just try to get a rise out of you. Some of them will, some of them will be nice. Some of them will just be completely antagonistic. And all of these obstacles that we may face on book distribution, it's Krishna testing us. It's Krishna testing our sincerity. He's trying to bring determination out of us. But book distribution is a yajna. It's not meant to be easy. Prabhupada said I never said preaching would be easy. I forgot exactly who he said that to, but I think it was Indra Swami. Anyway, but Prabhupada said preaching's not easy. It's not an easy thing. I mean, there's so many obstacles. I mean, beautiful women's one of them. But there's so many obstacles. Your own mind is an obstacle. Maya may come in the form of thoughts like, oh, I've been out here for so long, I've been selling these books, and nobody's taking them, and maybe I should just leave. Maybe I should just go. Or Maya may come in the form of a thought like, I'm distributing all these books, and I'm doing like $500 a day. I can just do this for myself. I can just $500 a day for a year. It's what, like, however much money that is. I can get an apartment nearby. Keep selling these books, and even sometimes that happened. But the point is that we have to overcome all of these obstacles. We can't let Maya stop the book distribution. And actually, the book distribution is unstoppable. Prabhupada guarantees it. That no matter what's going on, no matter if there's war, no matter if there's some economic, recession, that the Sankirtan movement, the book distribution will go on. Prabhupada guarantees it. Lord Chaitanya guarantees it. But we have to do the work. And the work is not easy. And Maya may come and tempt us and, may try to, take us away from doing the service. But ultimately, it's Krishna just testing our sincerity. And we have to pass the test. We have to just, get out there and say, I'm going to distribute books for, 4 hours today. And whatever happens, no matter who I meet, no matter how my mind is testing me, no matter how much trouble my mind is giving me, I'm going to sit here at this book table, or I'm going to walk around this, wherever, parking lot or whatever, and I'm going to distribute books for 4 hours. And that's the yajna. I'm going to do the yajna, and then I'm going to get back, and then I can, take rest and do whatever. Of course, you shouldn't just do whatever, but so yeah, book distribution is a yajna. It's not easy. Maya Devi will tempt us, but ultimately it's Krishna's arrangement to bring determination out of us, to bring us closer to him, and to realize that he's actually the one who's in control. He's actually the one who's inspiring people to take books. He's the super soul within, and he's the one who's distributing the books, and we're just an instrument. So, sorry, that was kind of long-winded and.
No, Prabhu, just a very quick follow-up question.
Yes,
is it that okay, Maya will tempt us in order to increase our determination, because her master, Lord Krishna, want us to become determined in order to get more close to him. But
yes.
But in accordance with your answer, Maya Devi will never give us a test too difficult to be overcome.
No, she may. Too difficult to overcome. That we absolutely can't overcome. Yeah, so many devotees have fallen down. So many devotees have.
Yes, of course. So many devotees fall down.
But it's not that she'll give us a test that's impossible to overcome. She'll give us a test, and we might ourselves not be able to overcome it. That's why it's a test. But the point is that we can overcome it through determination, and this determination it comes from from prayer. We have to be absorbed in praying to the spiritual master. We have to be absorbed in praying to Prabhupada, and from there we get the strength to overcome the tests that are presented by Maya. So we have to, So it's not that Maya will just give us a test that will absolutely stop our book distribution, and there's no possibility of us ever being able to pass it. No, she'll give us tests, and it's up to us. It's up to us if we'll pass. It's up to us if we'll fail. And we see sometimes devotees fail, and it happens. It's unfortunate, but that's the nature of the material world. So
yes, now it is perfectly clear. Wonderful answer to my question. And if I may, Amogha Prabhu, yesterday, due to a technical problem, I didn't give my thanks to in relation to the wonderful answer Vijaya Prabhu gave to my question of yesterday. Thank you very much.
Dimitri has some. Thank you, Vijaya Krishna Prabhu.
You're welcome, Prabhu.
I heard somewhere in class that these books will be printed and distributed no matter what. And as devotees, we just have our choice whether we want to help this Sankirtan mission
Yeah.
or not.
It's gonna go on, but do we want to be a part of it? Srivida Prabhu.
So just to clear up one thing, because the impression was that the way Vijay Prabhu's, Krishna Prabhu's question started, is that it seemed to be a confusion because here's Bharat Maharaj, and he's got to take the body of a deer, and the assumption was, oh, Yamadutas came. No. There's a verse here. I'm looking at the verse right here, 6:3:21, 29, when Yamaraj is instructing his dutas about who should they approach and not. My dear servant, please bring to me only those sinful persons who do not use their tongues to chant the holy name and qualities of Krishna, whose hearts do not remember the lotus feet of Krishna even once, and whose heads do not bow down even once before Lord Krishna. It's right here in the Sanskrit. Send me those who do not perform their duties toward Krishna, which are the only duties in human life. Please bring me all such fools and rascals. So there's no question of Bharat seeing the Yamadutas.
Yeah.
He did have to take a body of a deer, but he was able to keep his consciousness and remembrance. It's a special case.
Yeah.
And so those devotees who fall down and so forth, they're not going to see the Yamadutas like an ordinary sinner. Yeah, they may take another body, but they'll be able to pick up where they left off. And there's no loss or diminution. I like to keep quoting that one.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a test, and the test means you might fail the test. But then after, what happens when you fail? Do you just say, oh, okay, then I'm finished and give it up? Or devotees sometimes have left and come back also.
Yeah.
So there's always that free will, but it becomes much more difficult if you establish a strong attachment like Maharaj Bharat does.
Yeah.
So it's a question of how you pick yourself up and keep struggling.
Yeah, thank you for those. Nice. Yeah. Anything else? Daniel. Dan the man.
Thank you, Amogha Lila Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So my question about book distribution is understanding the fact of attaining taste. And so, for me, I love preaching. Like, I love, helping people understand about Krishna consciousness. But sometimes I do repetitive stuff on preaching that would affect me in spreading Krishna consciousness. And so how do we...
So you said repetitive?
Yeah, so I would do something that maybe I wouldn't... That would cause me from not preaching. Like, it would stop me from preaching the Krishna consciousness, or like, in a way where it's like, for example, like I would say the same line over and over and over. So this could be repetitive, and then you kind of lose the taste. To one person? No, to different people. Yeah. Anyways, but the point being is that I love preaching, but sometimes I start to lose the taste because I get too absorbed in just like doing the same thing over and over. So how can I continue to have that taste, but also to have that standard of like, preaching?
I think Vijay Prabhu probably has, and would you like to go first? I have something to say about that. So, I've also had that experience. But something I realized recently was that we have to understand why we're saying these lines. Like for example, in my explaining the Bhagavad Gita, I practically say that, and Vijay Prabhu does the same thing. Vijay Prabhu's practically been saying the same lines about the Bhagavad Gita for 15 years or something, So, maybe even longer. But but you have to understand why you're saying the lines. You have to understand why, why am I saying the body starts here and ends here and we're just the consciousness on the way through? Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because it's true. I'm trying to tell this person, that this is the reality. It's not that I'm just saying these words, but this is the actual reality, and I'm trying to inform this person. So we have to have the proper consciousness. We have to actually be in like a, in like the mood of preaching. We have to actually be in the mood of not just that the only thing is that the only absolute goal is to give this person a book, and if they don't take a book, then we're a failure. We have to, when we're speaking to them, when we're these lines for them to take the book, that's also preaching to them. It's also, if I'm telling you that, we become controlled by the three modes of material nature, and that, you know, a person who's in knowledge, they go beyond all the modes of material nature, and they just see this, you know, the spirit soul within all life. You know, that's true. I'm informing this person about, you know, so we have to have an understanding of why we're saying these lines, and we have to consciously say them. Of course, things like, "Hey, how's it going, guys?" You know, that we don't really have to. That can be more or less, you know, kind of, you know, we can kind of say the same thing and we can kind of get into a rhythm with that. But in terms of like actually preaching, like actually telling people about the books, like what these books are about, you know, we should be conscious of what we're saying. We should be consciously saying them, not just like going on super autopilot mode. And we should also be, of course, and that helps us also be prepared if they have questions, if they have objections. We're not thrown off. We're not thrown off by, you know, if someone says, "Well, wait a minute, my consciousness is totally different from when I was a baby. You were saying the consciousness is always the same, but it's not." But, you know, if you're actually being conscious about the lines that you're saying to them, that won't throw you off. You won't be like, "Oh man, now I have to step out of my you know, my automatic book distribution mode," and like, you know, and then your whole tone changes, and then it just comes off as unnatural. So you have to, just be conscious and understand the vibration that you're connecting them to. Understand the gravity or the import of the knowledge that you're connecting them to. That's been my experience, at least. Yeah, Vijay Prabhu, please.
So one thing is that we're not going out there to enjoy book distribution.
Yeah.
We're going out there to try to give people Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada, he had all these pictures put in there for a reason. You know, people are attracted to art, especially when there's a message in it. Just like the five senses or the changing bodies. I mean, we've seen it, some of us have seen it a million times, but people see that the first time, it's like, wow, okay. And people, I mean, my experience is people buy the books just for the pictures. And there's not much variety you can say about some of the pictures. So yeah, I've been saying the same thing for years. But it's ever, Krishna's instructions are ever fresh. Yeah, he was blessed by, who? Who was he blessed by? Krishna was blessed that whatever you speak is ever fresh.
I don't remember.
Sandipani Muni, his
Oh.
guru. Whatever you say will be ever fresh. So, and when I'm saying, you know, that we're going through the body, you meditate. I'm a soul, and I'm just explaining the five senses and how there's the mind. So I'm thinking, I'm actually, Krishna, please purify my mind. You know, help me to understand this situation. So it's not, you know, so it's beneficial for ourselves also. And when people see that the first time, it's like, wow, this is amazing. So people appreciate it. Yeah, so we certainly go out trying to enjoy book distribution. No, I'm not getting a taste. This is no fun anymore. Let me do something else. No, we're going out there to give the fallen souls Krishna's mercy, and this is a way that people are attracted to Prabhupada's books, is by seeing the message in the pictures. Yeah.
And also, when we actually have when we have sincerity, and we're not just going out to have fun or to do this or that, it becomes fun. That's when it becomes ecstatic. That's when it becomes fun. Or that's when it becomes enjoyable. Is when we're not trying to enjoy it, and when we're trying to sincerely just spread the Krishna consciousness movement, help Srila Prabhupada, serve the spiritual master. That's actually when it becomes ecstatic. That's when it becomes enjoyable. So, but it requires some practice. It requires doing it. It requires some kind of steadiness in doing it, and it requires purity. So these things are all there. Shai.
There are some devotees that could say different things, but it's very rare. I mean, you got to be really, really bright to come up with different things to say about it, because it's just, it's we're there, we're talking to them for a short time, so there's to be innovative and to say something different every time. Good luck. Yeah. I don't know of any devotee that's able to do that. I mean, generally devotees just have the same line. They'll do the same line for some time, then they'll do another line for a long time, and then maybe they'll go. But generally, you just have the same. Say, what's his name? in Atlanta.
Mahotsaha.
They do the same thing. A little variety. I also, they ask questions, some, a little variety, but basically the same thing. Then we, go off on, speak about other things. They ask questions sometimes, but that's there also.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Anything else? Any other reflections? Pawan Prabhu. It's for the online viewers, yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a nice class.
Jai, thank you.
And I just, maybe reflection. So as Prabhu was saying that we are not out there to enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And I think I remember Prabhupada, and even, I used to, in St. Louis, we have Chakri Prabhu. He's Prabhupada disciple, and he used to go out, we used to go together. And he used to say, Pawan, we are going into battlefield, and we are soldiers. So you're not there to, to kind of enjoy.
Yeah.
But many times rejection, frustration.
Yeah.
Okay. And what Prabhu was saying, repetition. Actually, it is repetition, but the response from the people are different.
Yeah.
For the same thing, he will say, do you believe in karma? But the response, I have never seen same.
Yeah.
Thousands of people. Response is different.
Yeah.
So the battlefield mindset helps, because soldiers in the battle, they don't think of enjoying. It is like the aim and goal and purpose.
Get the job done.
I think that's really very important, and it really helps.
Yeah, thank you, bro. That was nice, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai.